perspective from Russia now. Andrei Kolesnikov is senior fellow and chair of the Russian Domestic Politics program at the Carnegie Moscow Center. And I asked him first about Putin's approach to foreign policy.
So he's hostile to the West. He's hostile to the Western values. But it doesn't mean that he will attack the West, even the countries which are too close to the borders of Russia, just like Baltic states or Finland or something like that. He's in a permanent readiness to be in the stance of hybrid war with some Western countries, and his ideology is the ideology of a besieged fortress. We're ready all the time for some attacks from the West, and the main feelings of Russians are just like some kind of a Stockholm syndrome towards the commander of this besieged fortress. This is a big picture framework for possible Putin steps. But again, it doesn't mean that he could be efficient in terms of real war with the West. He doesn't have resources for it.
How do Russians themselves view Putin now? Recent polls suggest that his approval rating is declining, that his trust rating is declining. What's happening internally?
Something has been changed this summer, not only because of his initiative about increase in retirement age. It was really painful for a lot of Russians, but because of fatigue from permanent hybrid war with the same West, fatigue from permanent victories in the field of foreign policy. Yes, he made Russia great again in the eyes of the majority of Russians, but at the same time, maybe here is the time to concentrate on something more material, on economic issues, on social issues, and so on and so forth. There are some signs of this fatigue. I mean, for instance, regional elections in this September, when the party of the power, Joint Russia, has some troubles in different regions. So there are a lot of traps for Putin, a lot of challenges in this very 6 years term.
Do you think that some of the difficulties he's having domestically at home will perhaps make him more forceful in terms of foreign policy? Because often world leaders use the world stage to try and improve their image at home.
Yeah, this is his main strategy, and he will continue this, so to say, general line. But at the same time, it doesn't work to the same extent if we compare it to previous time, to previous years. All this political mobilization around foreign policy issues, around victories, is not so efficient. Yes, we have so-called Crimean consensus. The majority still supporting this consensus, and this is a basis for the approval of Putin, despite the fact that these figures are declining all the time, and right now it's on the plateau, which was typical to the pre-Crimean time. It is extremely important in terms of understanding the current situation with Putin's rating. So it means that he can't do something comparable to the annexation of Crimea. He can't annex North Pole or Alaska with the same positive consequences for his rating. He can't annex South Ossetia, Abkhazia with the same success. So it means he must find another tools to maintain the same level of support.
You have also suggested in some of your writing that many Russians now are fatigued by the anti-Western sentiment. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yes, it's an interesting phenomenon, and here is interconnection between the decline of Putin's rating and decline in hostility towards the West. We can see it on the charts of sociologists, for instance, from the independent Levada Center, from different polls. And it means that people really, they want to be friendly to the West. Before Helsinki summit, for instance, during focus groups, some group discussions in the socialist organizations, people said, okay, the USA is a strong country, so if we will be friendly to this country, it could have some positive consequences in terms of a better life, simply this way. And I know this is the main demand for possible changes. People simply want to live better, to have good food, durable goods, and so on and so forth. Yes, they're supporting Putin as a symbol of Russia, as a flag to rally around, but at the same time, they see that he can deliver a lot of prosperity to this country, and this is maybe the main reason for decline of his rating.
Given that political situation and the sentiments that you describe, what should we be watching for now? There's concern around the U.S. midterm elections coming up in a few weeks. Canada is looking at a federal election in a year. What should we be watching for in terms of the relationship with Russia and perhaps even Russia's interference?
I think the situation could be stable, so to say, stable in Putin's policy, foreign policy primarily. I can say that he could be more friendly towards the West. He does not express any desire to it. He doesn't make any steps in this direction. But at the same time, you shouldn't be frightened totally, because he really can't initiate any real military efforts in order to attack the West. So we can have kind of a proxy war in Syria, for instance, and it's extremely important, at least, to maintain some military technical coordination of the actions of U.S. military or Western military as such, and Russian military troops. So this is the best we can make right now mutually, because, again, no efforts to reach some kind of détente, some kind of rapprochement with the West from his side. So nearly the same. The problem for Russia is the sanctions regime, but in terms of public sentiments, this is routine. We got accustomed to live with sanctions, so it doesn't mean that people will consolidate or mobilize themselves around Putin because of new wave of sanctions.
Mr. Kolesnikov, thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you.